Hello everyone. Welcome to Historical Explorations, Past to Present. Today, I want to address a crucial issue that has permeated various places of worship: idol worship and the veneration of images. This practice is not only misguided but also strongly condemned by the Bible. In Exodus 20:3-5, the Bible clearly states, "You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above or on the earth beneath or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God." It is a dangerous and deceptive practice that has no place in the life of a believer. Idolatry can take many forms, from the worship of physical statues to the elevation of material possessions, power, or even other people to a godlike status in our lives. Churches that place images on their altars are deviating from these clear biblical instructions. This form of worship is not only misleading but can also exploit the faith of their followers for financial gain. The Bible is crystal clear in its condemnation of idolatry, and we must heed its warnings. Throughout the scriptures, we see numerous examples of how idolatry leads to destruction and separation from God. The prophets of the Old Testament repeatedly called the people of God to turn away from their idols and return to God. We are called to worship the one true God, the creator of heaven and earth, and to give him alone our allegiance and devotion. This call to exclusive worship is not just a command, but an invitation to experience the fullness of life that comes from a relationship with our Creator. The very idea of fashioning an image and attributing to it divine power is an affront to the majesty and holiness of God. It diminishes his infinite nature and reduces him to something that can be controlled or manipulated by human hands. It is a form of spiritual adultery, a betrayal of the covenant relationship we are called to have with our Creator. Just as a spouse would feel betrayed by infidelity, God is grieved when we turn our hearts away from him to worship idols. Deuteronomy 4:15-16 warns us, "You saw no form of any kind the day the Lord spoke to you at Horeb out of the fire. Therefore, watch yourselves very carefully, so that you do not become corrupt and make for yourselves an idol, an image of any shape, whether formed like a man or a woman." Idol worship often involves rituals that demand offerings and gifts, leading to a religious commercialism that preys on the vulnerable. We must return to the true essence of worship, which is centered on a direct, personal relationship with God. As it says in John 4:24, "God is spirit, and his worshipers must worship in the spirit and in truth. God is a jealous God, who will not share his glory with another. He desires our wholehearted devotion and is worthy of nothing less. Let us commit ourselves to worship him in spirit and in truth, rejecting all idols and embracing the abundant life he offers." Despite these teachings, numerous churches across the globe, including prominent denominations, continue to incorporate idol worship into their practices. Catholic Church. The public parading of these images exacerbates the problem by making a spectacle of what should be a deeply personal and spiritual practice. Such parades often serve to glorify the church and its leaders rather than promote true worship. This can also lead to public ridicule and misunderstanding of the faith, further eroding its credibility. The Catholic Church is often criticized for its veneration of saints and the use of statues and icons during worship. Statues of the Virgin Mary, Saint Joseph, and other saints are prominently displayed in churches, leading to questions about whether this practice aligns with biblical teachings. Many argue that such veneration distracts from a direct relationship with the divine and can devolve into idol worship. Orthodox churches. Similarly, Eastern Orthodox churches utilize icons extensively in their worship practices. While these icons are intended to be windows into the divine, critics assert that they often become focal points of worship, leading congregants to revere the images rather than the spiritual realities they represent. Eastern Orthodox Church utilizes icons extensively in worship. These icons often depict Jesus, Mary, and other saints and are central to the liturgical practices. Anglican Episcopal churches. Many Anglican churches feature images and statues of Jesus and saints on their altars, particularly in high church traditions. Lutheran Church. Some Lutheran congregations maintain the use of images and statues, although this practice varies widely. African traditional religions. In some African churches, the blending of traditional practices with Christianity has led to the veneration of images and objects, often referred to as sacred objects. Churches influenced by African traditional religions may include shrines, charms, and other items in their worship, creating a syncretic environment that can confuse the true essence of faith. Charismatic and Pentecostal movements. Even within charismatic and Pentecostal movements, some churches have adopted practices that resemble image worship. The use of anointed oil, miracle handkerchiefs, and other tangible items is common, and while these are not images in the traditional sense, they often take on a similar role in the faith lives of congregants. The belief in their supernatural properties can lead to a form of worship that prioritizes these objects over a direct relationship with the divine. The dangers of idol worship and image veneration extend beyond theological disagreements. These practices can lead to a range of societal issues. Spiritual distraction. When congregants focus on images or objects, they may lose sight of the essence of their faith. Worship becomes more about the rituals and less about genuine connection with the divine. Exploitation. Churches that promote the sale of religious items, such as miracle oils or anointed cloths, often exploit the faith of their congregants, encouraging them to spend money for blessings or miracles. This can lead to financial burdens on vulnerable members of the community. Superstition. Idol worship can breed superstitious beliefs, where individuals believe that mere possession or interaction with an object can bring them favor, health, or wealth, rather than relying on faith and ethical living. Division. The presence of idols can create division within congregations, leading to disagreements among members who hold differing views on the appropriateness of such practices. The Ten Commandments, etched in stone by the very finger of God, stand as an eternal testament to His will. These commandments are not mere historical artifacts, they are living words that continue to speak to us today, guiding our actions and our hearts. They remind us of the covenant between God and His people, a covenant that demands our loyalty and obedience. He is the one true God, the creator of all, and there is no other. His uniqueness and sovereignty are fundamental truths that underpin our faith. By acknowledging Him as the sole object of our worship, we affirm His rightful place in our lives and align ourselves with His divine purpose. To worship an idol is to deny God's unique identity and sovereignty. It is to turn away from the truth and embrace a lie, to place our trust in something that cannot save or sustain us. Idolatry is a form of spiritual adultery, a betrayal of the covenant relationship we have with God. This is a dangerous path, one that leads only to spiritual darkness and despair. When we place our trust in idols, we cut ourselves off from the source of true life and hope. We become ensnared in a web of falsehoods that can only bring us harm. The consequences of idolatry are severe, affecting not only our spiritual well-being but also our relationships and our sense of purpose. We must cling to the truth of God's Word, which guides us away from such perilous paths. The Scriptures are a lamp to our feet and a light to our path, illuminating the way to a life of faithfulness and devotion. By immersing ourselves in God's Word, we can discern the lies of idolatry and remain steadfast in our commitment to Him. As believers, it is imperative to return to the foundational teachings of faith that emphasize a direct, unmediated relationship with the divine. True worship is characterized by sincerity, humility, and a commitment to spiritual growth. Churches must strive to uphold these principles by removing images and idols from their altars and focusing on fostering an environment where worshipers can engage in genuine spiritual practices. The call is not merely for reform within individual congregations, but for a collective movement toward purifying worship and aligning it with biblical teachings. Idol worship and image veneration have no place in the true practice of faith. As communities of believers, we must reject these practices and return to the purity of worship that honors the divine as outlined in sacred texts. By doing so, we can ensure that our faith remains grounded in truth, fostering genuine spiritual connections that uplift and inspire all who seek to worship in spirit and truth. Thank you for watching. Let us strive for a worship that honors the true essence of our faith. Like and subscribe to our channels for more videos.